Welcome to the Frying Pan River. Today I'm going to show you guys everything that I do when I get to the river for the first time. Just got to a beautiful new hole right here, and we're going to figure out how to fish it. First thing we got to figure out to do is what flies we're going to tie on. I went ahead and used a thermometer right here to test the water temperature, and it came out to 37.9. So very cold, it's early November, but about to be expected. So that tells me a few things. First of all, we already know it's November, so we know it's kind of late fall, early winter, and we know that the water's cold and there's snow on the ground, as you can see. We've gotten some snow here recently, so that tells me a number of different things as far as the activity. I can see a few fish swimming around in here already. Really clear water, and I can already tell that since it's that time of year that we're probably going to be seeing just a few different bugs, probably blooming olives and some midges. And on the frying pan, you get a few PMDs sometimes late in the year. I might have a feeling they're shut down now given where the water temps are at, but you still kind of get some PMDs out here. But it's pretty unique to this river. Otherwise, we're pretty much looking at blooming olives and midges is most of what's on the menu. You can have stoneflies, and you can also have possibly some eggs and some annelids. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go use my bug seine with my net here. So this is the bug seine that you get with our online entomology course. And I'm going to show you guys exactly what I do when I seine the river. There's two different methods. There's the menu method and there's the dinner plate method. Menu method helps us figure out what might be on the, trout's menu, so to speak, right? That's just kind of going in and just figuring out what's in the water. You kick up some rocks and you find what's in the water. So we just place this seine just like this right around our net, just like that. And that'll allow us to collect the insects as they float through the water into the net, and we'll be able to look at the net and figure out what we want to do. I'll have my GoPro on for that as well. So try and get as close to where the water is going to be. There we go. Close as we can. And simply just turn on the net. There we go. And we're just going to do this for a couple minutes. That's all there is to it. We just kind of go back and forth. And at this time, too, we can spend some time observing, seeing what we're seeing in the water ourselves, seeing if we're seeing any bugs rising or any fish hatching, any fish rising as well. And just pay attention to everything that we're seeing. Weather, cloud cover, no cloud cover. This area pretty much doesn't see any sun this time of year, so it's not going to be too big of an issue. And we're just going to keep moving through here a little bit. Wow, that current is strong over here. The longer the net, the better for this sort of a thing, because it really helps you figure out. It helps you just hold the net better, because that current's actually pretty strong once you get all the net in the water like that. So, especially right behind the main current. I'm just going to do this for maybe another minute. And what we're going to do today is we're going to tightline nymph. This water's not moving terribly fast, but you can see the water on top of the surface is moving significantly faster than the water below the surface. And that's where the trout are sitting. So we want our flies to flow at that same rate when we're drifting them through the water. So when you ditch the strike indicator and you find, and you kind of perform this tightline nymphing method, which we'll show you here in a minute, really helps you get down a slow drift and helps you align your drift with the speed of the water that the trout are feeding in. You get better drifts, better casts, and hopefully more fish. All right. Let's go ahead and come back over here out of the river and see what we found, if anything. Sometimes you don't find a whole lot. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It definitely can vary. All right, so I went ahead and just took my seine off just so I can get it nice and close instead of having to have it on the net. Here's what we found, and you guys can probably see some of that, but a lot of it you can't. They're all very small bugs, if any. Very few. Nothing that I really probably have as far as size-wise in my box. I'm going to have to go with the smallest I've got. I'm seeing a few midges and a few small mayflies. They're going to be hard to point out. Like here is actually a very small midge. And that's all I'm saying at the moment. Not a whole lot that came up. So this tells us one of two things. One, what it tells us is that the insects that we're likely going to be targeting are ones that are to be expected for this type of season. So your midges and your betas still, which is again kind of a little bit of what we saw. We didn't see anything that told us otherwise, that our seasonal knowledge is not accurate or not a good place to start. The other thing that it could be happening is that the bugs that the fish are keying in on are more attractor patterns. And attractor patterns are brighter and flashier and things like that. And they're going to have, sometimes when there's nothing really moving through the river, a San Juan worm or an egg pattern or a some sort of attractor pattern, even like a rainbow warrior, even though it kind of looks like midge, can be a good kind of all-around pattern to have on, because it'll attract the fish to it because there's not a lot moving on anyway in the first place, so it gives them something to focus on and something to kind of key in on, and that works a lot of times pretty well. So with that being said, that's what we're going to go with. We're going to use a 3-fly setup. Going to use probably like a Frenchie up on top, and then maybe kind of the soft tackle hairs here that I've had pretty good luck with over time as a second fly, and then a real small, probably purple Baetis on the bottom that also looks a lot like a midge. We're going to go and get set up with that here first, and then we will tune back in and actually get going on the river. All right, guys. So I got my 3 flies on, and we are ready to do some fishing. So again, I'm not using a strike indicator, and some of the benefit of that, like I said, is that you can get a better drift, especially down in that deep water. You can see there's a nice big deep pool, and the water is going pretty quick over the top of it, so I want to be able to get down deep without picking up, that drag. And so we're going to hope that we can do that. I got that small purple Baetis on the bottom. My middle fly is kind of that orange soft tackle. And then I kind of did like a Frenchie up on top. He's like a rainbow warrior in coloration. So I think he'll do pretty good. When you tight line, you want to keep your line tight, of course, the whole time. You don't want to leave a lot of slack. So when you're fishing, you're pretty close to it, and you use a longer rod here. And you're just going to send it up forward, and you're going to let it just fall perpendicular to your drift and work right through, following your rod and your line the whole way down, just keeping it straight like that. And you'll be able to feel the bumps when the fish hit it most times, or your line will slow. That helps you kind of get down. You kind of regulate your depth. You got that cider on there. Oh, there's one right there. Oh, just missed him. So you can see there that I don't know what he took, but my fly line stopped, and I thought I'd hit bottom, but because I was too busy paying attention to instructing you guys. But sure enough, there was a fish on the end there. So that's good. So far, so good. I'll be a little quicker next time. At the end of my drift, I always just kind of set the hook, because you just can't really go wrong. It's either time to pick up and cast again. It kind of helps with your next cast, or you'll have a fish on the end. Sometimes you just won't feel them. You miss a lot of strikes when you're nymphing, whether you realize it or not. Another benefit of this too is that you start out a little more shallow, right? So I'm going to keep my line here, but as I get into that deeper pool, I just kind of lower my rod tip a little bit, maybe about 6 inches as I go through. I'm maintaining that bottom of the river type of drift, which is great. That's what you want. You always want to kind of be feeling bottom or close to it. So you always just keep going a little bit lower each and every time until you start ticking bottom, then you just come up a couple of inches. And that's how you can kind of regulate your depth without a strike indicator. All right, so I chose to position myself perpendicular, or like straight across, right, from the river. Some people can start downstream. Other people, maybe you do upstream if you're going to streamer fish or for different reasons. I chose here because it allows me to get a drift easily without any line management. I can just go up and down when I go. Just saw a little fish feed in there. There's hope. So that's why I chose this area. Now when I'm casting, I'm aiming right for that main current at first and just trying to get down deep right on the outside edge or right in the middle of that seam and let it just drop down deep, because I don't have had a bump there. I don't have to worry about the speed of the water up above, which is nice. I can just get down nice and deep and drift. I mean, you can see the bubbles with my line. The bubbles are passing through. So I mean, that top current is moving twice as fast as my fly line is once it gets, or as my flies are down below. And anytime you feel, when you're tight lining, anytime you feel any sort of bump, or your line slows, or it moves in a way that's not normal, just set the hook. You're either going to find out that it's bottom, which is okay. Hook sets are free, especially when you're tight lining, because you don't really make much of a mess. And then it's going to help you learn to kind of regulate your depth on your next cast too, right? So I know that I'm hitting shallow a little bit there, so I'm going to keep it a little bit higher at first, then just drift it a little bit deeper as I get into the slow part of the hole. That's just a real minor movement. Oh, another bump. Real minor movement change. You're just dropping your rod tip just a few inches. That cider line really helps, because it shows you that difference between 3 and 4 inches. Ooh, that was bottom, but it felt as good as a fish, that's for sure. Position myself just a pinch more downstream. Getting a little bit too far up in that current. I want to be right down in that main pool because I can see where those fish are at. I'm just trying to time it so that my nymphs drop down there in time, get in the strike zone, and then go right in front of those fish's face. And just a little bit of practice and trial and error, and once you feel like you've gotten enough good drifts, usually 20, 30 drifts, and you're not pulling a fish out, it's probably time to switch up flies or change up your technique. Alright, so like I said, about 5-6 good drifts in an area, and then change up that spot in the drift. I mean, I haven't even hit that far side yet. So I can continue to do this a few more casts, and I can work my way out, take 2 steps forward, and cover different parts of the drift. Especially during winter, fish are just way less willing to move. So it's good to get down right where they're at and drift it right over their noses as best as you can. So pick up more fish that way. Have that one bump at the beginning. That's been about it. Change that medium. Oh, there's a fish. There we go. Just as you talk about changing flies, I don't know about you guys, but the more I trash talk fish and tell them that they shouldn't do something, the more they seem to do the opposite. It's just one of those things. A nice little brown here. GoPro, start recording. Bring him right here to the net. Perfect. Great little brown. Nothing too fancy. And he took that small purple Baetis. So there you have it. There we go. Nice little fish. Man, they're so pretty on the frying pan. Let me tell you what, man. Those fish are they just got a different color to them. It's just gorgeous. Took that little purple Baetis right in the side of the mouth. So that's pretty much the basics of it right there. That's how you tightline nymph. That's how you go out in the river, figure out what's in the river and what the fish are eating. And sure enough, I mean, you don't always get it right the first time. Sometimes you got to try 2 or 3 times, but a little bit of patience, and about 10 minutes in, and one fish on and lost him, and then brought this other fish up right now. So It's good. We'll go and keep fishing this hole a little bit more and try and get a little bit more footage for you guys, but that's pretty much the basics of how I use fly selection and some proper presentation techniques and a good location here on this river to catch more fish. It's really as simple as that. So all this information as far as the fly selection, Alan, how'd you know to do betas? We didn't see any betas in the net. How do you know all these seasonal bugs and all this information? All that stuff is what we talk about and teach in our online entomology course. So that's really the main difference for us, is that once you've got that knowledge, I came prepared to the river with the right bugs, ready for that sort of scenario to happen. When I seined the river and found that there's really nothing that was showing up, I referred back to my seasonal knowledge, decided to start with that, get good presentation on the fish, and it led to me catching a couple of trout. So that's the basics of it. Let's go see if we can catch a few more, and hopefully you guys learn some stuff. Thanks for tuning in.